In northwestern Arizona, between Phoenix and Vegas, is a large mountain range named the Hualapais. They're big enough to require an interstate to wrap around them. We've explored the western slope once before and always wondered what it would be like to drive up and over to the other side. If you've ever seen the Hualapais from afar, perhaps you too have wondered this. And if you're like us, you want to know what you're in for before going, because we'll tell you now. This ride requires a bit of endurance. Welcome to today's trail guide, up and over the Hualapai Mountains between Yucca, Arizona and just north of Wickiup on US 93. This is a journey through many miles of very remote land, with large elevation changes and harrowing drop-offs. One of the first things you can do to up the safety factor on a drive like this is to have a solid plan and knowledge of what to expect. Throughout our trail guides, we refer to maps we made using onX Off-Road. We use these maps offline in conjunction with GPS to navigate the back roads of Arizona, knowledgeably, like a street baller would. We'll put a link in the description below in case you want to check it out and follow along. Okay, we have a lot of miles to cover, so time to head into mission planning. Welcome to Mission Planning. Here, we'll review today's route and form an understanding of what to expect. Here's our first look at today's route, a custom route we plotted clean through the Hualapai Mountains. It's exactly 50 miles from start to finish, hence why we dubbed this route the Hualapai 50-miler. So the first thing to understand is, this is going to be a long one. No whiners need apply. And as far as steep, curvy, rocky mountain roads go, this likely won't disappoint. If we look at the elevation graph, you can see the pinnacle of our ascent today is over 7,000 feet. Our starting point is at about 2,050 feet, meaning we'll ascend almost a mile into the Sky Island. The route is a combination of roads and starts on Boreana Mine Road outside of Yucca, Arizona. Here are your starting coordinates, which should be easy to route to later. You'll drive Boreana Mine Road for about the first 14 miles to the first point of interest we marked on the map. These are the remains of an old tungsten mine, one of Arizona's largest producing mines at varying times in the state's history. It fueled the World War I effort and beyond. We can easily spot the remains on satellite imagery. Not far from the site of the old mill is a potential photo op. We heard about a spring where goldfish sometimes live. We can also see the spring on satellite, so it's worth a look. Once you finish exploring the Boreana mine, you'll hook back up with the main road, which at some point becomes named South Flag Mine Road on onX Maps for much of the way. The first part will take us from the Boreana mine as we climb upwards, close to 2,000 feet into the mountains, to our first waypoint. It's a spot that looks good for flying the drone. It's far away from the wilderness area, and the topography looks photogenic. And since we're on the subject of flying a drone, let's talk about if you can fly back there. If you look at an aeronautical chart, our area of operation today is close to this wilderness area part of the way, which we cannot fly in. Fortunately, the route hugs the edge of the wilderness area, and the entire journey is on BLM land, outside the restricted zone. So technically you can operate anywhere along the route, but we're being good sports and launching far outside the boundary, over a mile away. The next segment of our journey takes us from our drone spot to where we are going to turn and make our way to 93, a little short of 9 miles. But do note, this spot is a hub for future adventures. Because our goal is to get from one side of the mountains to the other, all on dirt, we'll opt for the express route for the last 19 miles or so to the paved highway. We'll first take what onX shows as Antelope Wash Road for about 5 miles, and then hang a right onto a route shown as 151 here, but we also see this referred to as Route 129 on Google Maps. And from there, the last 14 miles should be a nice descent down a well-maintained county road, so we predict we may make quick work of this last part. At the end, we'll hang a right to go home to Phoenix, but maybe you'll be hanging a left to go elsewhere. And that's it. I know this one was longer than usual, but it isn't called the Hualapai 50-miler for nothing. But you made it this far, so the only thing left to do is head to the starting line and execute. Ah, young grasshopper, you showed. I was wondering if you were going to chicken out. Impressive. These mountains look a little bigger in person, don't they? And there appears to be some weather brewing up on yon mountaintop, so hope you brought an extra pair of britches, buckaroo. Just kidding, kinda. Okay, we have a long drive ahead of us, so let's get moving. The starting line is off exit 25, right off Interstate 40. Take Alamo Road to Boreana Mine Road. Easy. Our first few thousand feet up the mountains is a gradual but constant climb to the Boreana Mine. This segment alone is worthy of an out-and-back day trip, and not our first time heading this way. It's always been smooth sailing for us until you get to a property where you'll see a lot of interesting parked vehicles, and from there, it gets pretty bumpy. Along the way, watch out for curious wildlife and push your way up, looking out for some pretty deep ruts here and there. Eventually, you'll get to the old Boreana Mine, and trust us, you can't miss it. Here's a few shots from an earlier excursion when the weather was nicer. There's a lot to explore in this area, but don't forget, further into the mining area is an old spring, and these goldfish have been there on the 2 occasions we visited. Now, if you decide at this point you want to head back, don't feel bad about it. That makes for a worthy day alone, and the weather made us think twice. But we pressed on. This is where you'll take a few switchbacks as you climb quickly, providing views back down the valley from where we started. Some of our last views of this side of the mountains, and on this day, the last distant rays of sun we'd see for a while. You'll get a great taste of steep drop-offs and expansive views as we climb our way to the highest point of our journey today at just above 7,000 feet, also near the location of our drone operation point. The main hazards on this route are falling rocks. We saw a ton of freshly fallen ones on the road, with all being negligible obstacles except for one, which we cleared, but I bet some would have turned around at that point. You'll pass a starting point for a trail to Wabayuma Peak that goes into the wilderness area, which may serve as a good waypoint along your route. And it's up, up and away. Amazing drive, amazing views, spine-tingling at times, and always adventurous. It's sometimes intimidating to see a road cut into a far-off mountain, only to realize that is your route, and you're actually going to go up that. We hit some rain near the highest points of our journey, but luckily the storm's bark was worse than its bite. Right as we were nearing our drone mission point, the rain stopped, and the storm looked safely off to the north, so we took advantage of that break to capture the heart of the Hualapai Mountains. To generalize a bit, you might think of this as the halfway point through the route, give or take a few miles, but don't think the mountains are done with us yet. We'll descend the heights for a bit, only to climb all over again almost as high as the highest point, providing multiple doses of the grandiose feels. You'll have a pretty good sense when you're on the eastern side, when you begin to see the east-facing views open up more often, and then we'll fade into pines for a bit as we make our way down from the highest heights for the last time today. You'll be singing "She'll Be Coming Around the Mountain When She Comes" the whole time you come down the eastern slopes. Now pay attention to when you get to that hub we referred to earlier. Lots of crisscrossing paths, but essentially we followed the road clearly marked as a fire escape route, which is Antelope Wash Road, as we reviewed before. You may choose to go a different way from here. Where the first half the drive was all uphill by this point, down is the common way forward. The drive down Antelope Wash was pleasant with a few bumps, but with each passing mile, it was becoming evident that we've likely seen the worst for the day. Eventually, we hit that county road, 129, or 151 in Onyx, and once we hit that, it was almost as good as pavement much of the way. We still had a few miles left until we hit the main highway, 93, but they were the fastest going of the day. Before you know it, you'll be at the end where I'll be waiting to tell you, congratulations, buckaroo. You have completed the training needed to knowledgeably take on the Hualapai 50-miler. You are on your way to becoming one of my most adept pupils. Well, you could sit through this presentation, so that says something, right? We climbed to some of the highest places Arizona has to offer and sought counsel with Zeus in the clouds. And while we may have come out of it with a couple new gray hairs, we have stories to pass on to future generations. One day they will speak of the hominids who drove the mountains in gas-burning transports for pleasure. If you find these trail guides helpful, let us know, and if so, we'll make more. Please subscribe, tell your friends, and let us know if you ever enjoyed a drive over the Hualapais. Keep an eye out for more videos like this, and we'll see you next time.